Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Adventures in Truth livecast. My name is Jim Case. I'm your host today and every day on Adventures in Truth, and I'm really excited that you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the show. If you would like to interact with the show while we're live, please head over to Adventures in Truth Facebook page. And where you see the live there, you can enter into the comments, you can send questions, you can enter comments. We'll respond to them live while we're here. You can also catch us wherever you see the live screen. So we're on multiple Facebook pages, we're on YouTube Live, and also our host channel here, which is E360 TV. You can see E360 TV at e360tv.com, Adventures in Truth livecast, or you can download the apps on Apple TV and Roku and Amazon Fire and all that good stuff. So welcome to the show, our conversation with Moshe today. I'm excited to have Moshe back. Today we're going to talk about this, what I liken, what I call the tangled ball of yarn with regard to our energy, and how we get ourselves tangled by all these confluences of energies and then confuse them and entangle them in ways that they don't entangle. And I think that creates a greater hardship for us in our own personal process, and I know it does for me. So we'll be talking about some of that today in unraveling that kind of how do we pull strands? How do we focus in one place and help to differentiate the energies that we're dealing with on a daily basis? So looking forward to that just on the other side. Moshe is going to be here with us in just a few. But before we begin, of course, I want to take a moment to introduce you, if you haven't already seen my book, Adventures in Truth. That's the name of the show. The book is Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love. And what I can tell you is that this book can change your life. And the reason that I can say that is because what I know is that when you change your relationship with fear, it will change everything. And that's what this book can do. This book is a powerful look at fear from an internal perspective and an external perspective. So you get to understand the evolution of fear in your own experience, and you get to see in real time how fear is used outside of you, and then how you match that and how you can change that so that you're no longer operating from a fear-based consciousness, but an opportunity-based consciousness. That's a vast difference in experience, because really it takes your vision from a vision that's somewhere in here to a vision that's somewhere here. And imagine that with a vision that great, the unlimited potential and opportunity that's available to you in that energy. So that's the real difference here, is seeing that huge change in perspective, which changes all of the possibilities in your world. And it also changes how you interact with the world, because you're now no longer doing this with the world. You're standing clear and fully in your light in the world, and you're able to see the things in the field of your awareness and address them in whatever form or fashion that you choose. So www.adventuresintruth.com is where you can go. You can learn about the show. You can order my book, which is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Kindle. And I know there's another one, but I'm not remembering it right now. But you can find out more about the show. You can find out about working with me there as well. So come on over and see us. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Moshe is going to be with us. We're going to dive into today's show. Thanks, everybody. Good morning, Moshe. How are you?
Good to see you, Jim. Hi, everybody.
Trying to decide here on the view. Should I go this way or should we say with this way? I like this way better, actually, now that I think about it. And I wasn't paying attention, so I forgot to shift my green screen, so we'll do that now. Boom. Now we're in another studio. Look at that. Good morning, my friend. Good to see you. How are you? What's happening?
Good. Life is good. Here we are. Doing another show together.
Doing another show. Excited about that. So we got into this. You and I were talking earlier in the week, and very, very helpful actually conversation, because it brought me to an awareness of something that I was not paying attention to enough. And part of that was the genesis of this show, which is there were 3 or 4 different threads happening about different things that suddenly converged. And I shouldn't say suddenly, it's sort of a natural thing. We're one consciousness within this being. So as these things come in, if it starts to feel overwhelming, sometimes it's hard to separate the mind out of the equation. And so the mind is looking for all these relationships, and it's going into that subconscious, and it's pulling up all this information, trying to connect dots that don't exist. But in the moment of it, it's hard to see it, because you're confronted with things that feel uncomfortable, or you're not sure what to do with, or you don't have an answer for. And so if you have 2 or 3 or 4 of those, suddenly you're finding yourself going, oh my gosh, what's going on? Why is this all such a mess? And why do I feel so overwhelmed and so yucky about what's going on? Because I know for me, it left me in a kind of borderline depression. I mean, I was right at the edge of like, what am I doing here? What the hell is going on? And why am I even involved in any of what I'm doing? And to go there is a huge wake up call to understanding how we do this with our energy. And so I'm excited to talk about that. And what are you thinking so far, Moshe?
Well, I'm remembering the conversation we had that you referred to that led to this, and it had the property of spinning initially. Mm-hmm. So it took a while for us to get to the point of recognizing there are different and distinct energy streams being mushed together, and that's one of the challenges.
Yeah.
Especially if we're feeling them all at once.
Right.
Number 1 is to know they're different. And number 2 is to disentangle them.
Yes. And we're going to dive into specific levels. I'll tell you that in my process, I was dealing with some key things, and this is where it gets hairy, is that it doesn't have to be multiple key things, but if it is, that makes it even more challenging. But even if you're dealing with one key thing, if it's a potential survival issue or a potential purpose issue or something you think or I think personally is a significant thing, like for me, I was contemplating and have been contemplating my next steps. Where am I going with the show? Where am I going with the book? What's happening with my business? What is going on here? And what do I want to do? And even in the context of that question, there's confusion because I don't have clarity yet about what I want to do. So that adds another layer of confusion. Then add to that I've been in a financial situation that's going to be changing in the near future. And so I need to be thinking about that and how do I want to balance that, and how am I going to work with that? None of it's bad. It's all just stuff that needs to be attended to. And as I'm describing it, I can hear myself just describing it as stuff, things that but what was going on a week ago was a whole different animal. What was going on a week ago was, I don't know where my life is going, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't know what the hell I'm thinking, and why am I feeling this way, and I don't know what to do anymore. And so just those 2 major things, but then you add other things into that. So then they can be silly things. Oh, we're trying to decide what we're going to do for Thanksgiving. Now that becomes a crisis because, in addition to that, you have the pandemic going on. And what am I operating in fear, or am I operating in consciousness? What am I doing in the context of this? So now I've got 4 major things that are influencing my consciousness. And that's only the beginning. And all of them converging at the same moment, or seemingly converging at the same moment, because they happen to be up in my reality, in my time-space reality, meaning linearly. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe it's not linearly. So we're going to get started here with a quick meditation. But Moshe, anything else you want to say or add to that before we dive in to get people thinking or feeling or
experiencing? Yes, just to close out this piece. When we were on that call, basically you were telling me what was going on, and I was reflecting back and trying to give a different way of seeing it. And we were in Florida. My wife and I she was driving. I was in the passenger seat. So she could hear my part of the conversation. And afterwards, she said she felt like, I'm shaking my hands, like agitated, because she said, you kept saying the same thing again and again. So one of the things that happens is when we're in that state of confusion from all of these streams coming in, it's hard to hear because we're just repeating that, we're just caught in that web and can't really see. And you were able to pull out of it, but that's what happened.
But and a cool thing to talk about on the other side, because there is an internal process for me that happens during that I want to talk about too. So because I think it's again something that happens for all of us if we're conscious of it in some version, depending on where you're at. But I'm sorry, finish your thought.
No, time to meditate.
All right, let's do it. We'll see you on the other side.
All right.
All right, gang. As we like to do always, as a beginning part of the show, we want to get everybody on the same page energetically. So we're going to take a few minutes here to just focus. I believe, and as a part of my Pyramid of Wellness process, I believe breath is a significant and important foundation for our experience. And learning how to manage the breath and learning how to engage the breath is huge, because breath is prana and chi, life force. It is the energy that animates us. So what we want to do is to begin is just to kind of get comfortable where you are. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're sitting, if you're laying down, obviously if you're listening in a car, you can get as settled as you can, but maintain your focus on driving, please. But we're going to focus here as best as we can, and letting your eyes close gently and just begin to feel around in your body. I want you to become aware of your consciousness. And what do I mean by that? Be aware of what has your attention other than my voice or this image or both. What are you attending to in your consciousness? Are you solving a problem? Are you dealing with bills? Are you thinking about rent? Are you thinking about work? What are you attending to in your consciousness right now? Just become aware of it. No judgment, no problem, no issue, just awareness. Just become aware of the focus. And as you feel into all of those places that your consciousness is attending to outside of yourself, I want you to consciously begin to pull that energy, all that conscious awareness. I want you to bring it into your body. So literally feel yourself bringing all of that awareness and bring it into your heart space, and just fill the inside of you with your consciousness. Let it expand inside of you. Let yourself explore the inside of you. Feel the inside of you. Feel the ease with which your consciousness responds to your focus. And allow it to fill your head. Feel the inside of your head, around your brain. Just experience the inside of your body down through the neck and the shoulders. Notice, is there any tension there? Is there any discomfort there? If there is, just focus a little breath and attention. Nothing serious, not a lot of attention. Just breathe into it. Feel it open up, let it go, let the energy release. As you let that consciousness move down through your body, through your torso, feeling all of your organs, feeling the inside of your experience. How does that feel as the energy is expanding down through the hips and the legs, through the knees and the calves and the ankles, and out through the feet? Keeping all of that awareness inside of the body. And now focusing even more intently, you're going to bring all of it into your heart. And you're going to focus it into your breath. And we're going to do a counted breathing process. We're going to inhale to a count of 4, fully inhaling and reaching the top, feeling full. We're going to rest at the top. And then you're going to purge and release through the mouth to a count of 6. We do that to purge all of that energy and old stale energy and breath out of the lungs. And then at the bottom, you're going to rest in the emptiness and feel the ease of the emptiness. And then you'll re-engage and we'll go through again. So we'll start focusing all awareness and energy into the breath, into the heart space. As you begin an inhale, 2, 3, 4, and we're holding at the top, feeling full, and then releasing from the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and relaxing into the emptiness, resting in it as we re-engage the lungs. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, feeling full and relaxing into that fullness, holding and releasing from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, completely purging all that energy and air, and now resting at the bottom, feeling the void, feeling the emptiness, and engaging the breath again. Inhaling, 2, 3, 4, full feeling as we sit and rest in that fullness, and then releasing from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll ask you to continue this rhythm on your own now for just a few rounds, focusing your awareness, keeping it focused within the breath as you reach fullness on the inhale, feeling that fullness completely, and then releasing it, releasing all of that old energy and air, purging it from the mouth as you let it all go. And as you reach the bottom, finding that peace within the void, within the emptiness, relaxing, and then continuing on. Feel the power of the energy moving through you. Feel all of this incredible energy as you continue to breathe through. And now take these words in as you're into the breathing cycle. Feel them, let them pass through. I am the evolution of God realized as matter. I inform and guide that expression as the pure expression of God. I show up as God. I connect as God. I align as God. I am creation realized, and from that I create, expand, and engage. I am. Feel that huge breath open up your chest and body as you finish. Becoming aware and present in this moment. Gently now allowing your consciousness to expand back outside of your body. Not reaching for anything, just being in awareness. As we come back into the show, as we come back together to have this amazing adventure and conversation. We're going to bring Moshe back in. Take your time. We'll start gently. We'll bring you back slowly. Is that a Zoe? Hi, Zozo. Hi, Zoe. Good morning. She's having a little meditation process with us.
She is. She said she doesn't get her streams of energy mixed up. How come we do?
Because they're completely in the now and we're not. Oh my goodness. So welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. And I just love to be able to give us a chance to come together energetically so that as we go through this adventure, as you're listening or you're watching, you can engage with us where we are, and maybe you have comments or questions. You can do that on our Facebook page. But let's carry on, unraveling multiple energy streams. So where do we go from here? So we started on the other side. I wanted to talk about what was going on, what goes on internally for the experience you were having on the outside of it, and that your wife was having, listening to me go on about the same thing over and over again. So what I find in helping to dissect some of these multiple energy streams is that it's important to have sometimes to have that person who understands you, or a very non-judgmental presence that can just let you talk out. And I don't mean putting energy into in that sense. I don't mean using it as a way to piss and moan and complain. I mean it as a way to take what's in here that's confused and lay it back out here in front of you so that you can have it reflected to you in a way that you can see it from a new perspective. So given that is the process, what happens for me in that, in pulling these threads, is that I talk, and then I get feedback, and that feedback comes, and I feel the feedback. I don't listen to it in the sense that I'm not listening. I'm not intent on understanding it. I'm intent on feeling it, because the feeling is where is the problem for me at this moment. I'm a confluence of mashed feeling. So I'm being in feeling, waiting for something that is going to ping. And if you think about this in terms, I was just reading about this, some meme about this last night that I loved, that when, that because we're all simply reflections of each other, that when we do something like this is me calling on me to help me better understand me. And it's a different version of me because it's called Moshe. But that Moshe version of me has a perspective that the Jim version doesn't have, or may have, but is temporarily unavailable to. So this is where the co-creation process happens, because I get to feed energy. That energy gets to be kind of sat in and then responded to, because Moshe doesn't have any attachment to what I'm saying, or doesn't have any investment in what I'm saying. He's like me. He's just feeling me. He's feeling me and listening to my words and looking for the threads like I do on the inside. And then I'm sitting there and he's feeding back to me. And because he's not been exposed to this energy, he's trying to find his way in it. So he's like, oh, okay, let's pull here, let's tug there, let's look there, let's pull this up. And the whole time I'm sitting in it going, okay, that was close. Pure, that kind of hit over here, but not quite. That kind of hit over here, but didn't quite get in there. Then suddenly, bam, there's a phrase, a word, a concept that hits right into the heart. And you go, oh, there's the dot. There's my dot. There's my landing point. There's the place that I can start this thread, where I can begin to pull this apart from all the rest of this and begin to see it as a separate entity. So I'm babbling a lot, I think, but I wanted to give words to what I experience in the process and how I see it unfold, in hopes that that's something that all of you out there listening or watching have a similar understanding of as you look at your own experience. Breathing. Was that like a lot really fast?
No. It came. It was one thread.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that worked well. And I think what's really important and could be very valuable to listeners and viewers is the idea of what you call the ping, when something resonates. And in our conversation, I must have said half a dozen things, and your response was that you understood the words and they made sense, but it didn't do anything. And the ability to discern the ping, I think, is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if you can speak more to what that feels like and how to separate that from other pings that could be more fear or triggers. This was more a ping of something fit.
Yeah. So pinging, this is interesting. So in computer language, a ping is when the server sends out a message, or sends out a surge, or I don't know what they call it, but I'm calling it, it's called a ping, but I don't know what they call that thing. But it sends out, if it's trying to see, like if I'm trying to figure out if something's wrong with my Wi-Fi, the company that supplies the Wi-Fi sends out a ping, and it races along the course of the energy trail, whatever that is, to find out if there's anything in the way of the signal that's leaving them and coming to me. It's a very similar process. When the ping happens, when the ping doesn't get interrupted, it goes from here and it gets there and it goes ping, and there's an effect that's created in understanding that there is an open channel. So I experience it very similarly, and I love that you differentiated between a fear response or an emotional response, because you and I in those conversations, I'll say things like, okay, I heard you. I need more words about this. Or I said, or oh, okay, I felt that, but it wasn't quite on target. It's kind of left of that idea. I'm using words that make sense to me in the context of what I'm feeling. But the ping itself is, I'm not resisting where I am as best as I possibly can. I'm in resistance to the degree that I've spun myself into this yarn ball. And that yarn ball carries a certain amount of resistance just because it's all these energies that don't belong together that I've lumped together. But I don't necessarily have to be in resistance to that energy, although there is resistance. So there's still a little bit of a buffer zone there, if that makes sense. So what I'm attempting to do in putting it out here in front of me so I can see it, the ping is where when it's here, there's nothing can penetrate really well. But as we open it up a little bit and begin to create a little more space, then as Moshe's feeding back what he's experiencing, what I'm saying, things can kind of come through the energy. And so a word or a concept or a feeling will penetrate my field and cause my heart to go, woohoo, just for a second. And literally that's what it feels like. It's like a giant yes. It's like a truth bomb lands in your energy. And any time in my experience that you truly encounter truth, it has a physical impact. It has an experience to it. Sometimes some people get it as goosebumps. They call them goosies. Or some people get them as, like I do, they go, they get this little boom inside your body. I'm sure there's a million different ways to experience it depending on how you feel energy in your own experience. But again, and I use this all the time, there's a difference in that if it's a fear thing or if it's a reaction, it's not the same feeling. It's not the same pinging. It's more of a, so say Moshe responds to me and it hits me. Like in the past, we would talk about marketing stuff. And as soon as he would go there, I would feel the resistance build. And then it would hit because it's a trigger. So it would hit, but it's different because it's a resistant ping. It's a bouncing off thing, like, ooh, there's stuff there, as opposed to, oh, that's it. It's, ooh, there's stuff there, instead of, oh, there's a trail, there's a breadcrumb, there's a thing I can reach for, that aligns with whatever's going on, all this mess that's going on. But it's almost like somebody flips on a light switch for a second and you go, okay, that thread went over there. Let's bring it back over here because now I can see it more clearly because it got pinged. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful. It's a great explanation. I'd like to add a perspective from the other side because we all experience when our energy streams get tangled, and we all experience being the reflector. So I was the reflector for you.
Mm-hmm.
It was your energy streams that were tangled, and I was hearing you and giving feedback. And so as I mentioned before, I must have said half a dozen things that to me all made sense and could have been helpful. But when I became aware of the last thing, which was, Jim, you're treating all this as one thing and there are different threads. When I became aware of that idea, I knew that would, it felt different in me.
Yeah.
And it took 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long we talked to get there. Now it's easy to think the prior 20 minutes and the prior 6 things were a waste of time because they didn't do anything. But in retrospect, I think they do because they soften so it didn't do the ping, but it generated some feeling, even if it says, no, that's not it. And I don't have good words to describe it, but I don't want listeners to think they have to, as the reflector, the helper, they don't need to be right on target right away with their feedback. It's unfolding. And you say words and I reflect back with words, and then you say, yeah. And that's what leads to that. Okay, this is it. It's these, you're tangling up different energy streams.
Yes. And the cool thing in that, and I love your description, because the person who is being the reflector, all that's required is feeling into the experience. You don't have to have any special skill. You don't have to have a special degree. You don't have to be a particularly anything type of person. You just have to be willing to sit and feel, so that you can, because every word that's uttered, every energy that's emanated, every body tick that happens, all tells a story. And over time, you may, you may not recognize that at the beginning, but over time, what you'll see is that we all do the same thing in that fashion. We all have our tells, as it were, but we also know how to manage around those things when we think that there's an issue that we don't know what to do with. So I was brewing in my crap for probably a good solid week before I got to Moshe. It had been building, but I was in it to win it for a week. So by the time I got to him, that resistance that I talked about that was already in the energy had now heightened, and I was carrying a level of resistance at that point because I was feeling so frustrated by the state I was in. And I could do my meditation, I could do my breathing, I could get myself situated for a bit, and then it would come right back into the some thing, because all of the pieces of my yarn ball were in some way related. So if there was anything that came up about money, it was going to trigger what creating the money. What am I doing to make money? What am I going to do with my life? What am I doing with this? And all of a sudden, I'm right back in it again, because the mind says, "Ooh, money. That means you have a problem. Problem, and it keeps building and growing and building and growing." So, hence the next. Oh, what a tangled mess we've created. I know it's weaved, but I say created because I want us to take responsibility for understanding we're doing it to ourselves. We do this not, I think, as an intentional thing at all. I think that there are times in life when a lot of different questions or energies or thoughts or experiences come our direction. And especially in this day and age now, with all of the things going on between the election and the change of presidents and the pandemic and work and home life and vacations and holidays, and we're in the highest holiday season of the year and people are losing their minds. They don't know what to do. All of those things are powerful influences. And when we don't stop to untangle them, what I find happens is we get stuck in a place that's very similar to where we got stuck as a young person. And I was sharing this with Moshe that there's sort of an element of, I write in my book about how children are feelers, children are experiencers. So they take in energy, especially young kids. They take in, and all the energy they're taking in, they're just exploring and understanding it. And when they're confronted with things they don't understand, when they have multiple things they don't understand, and they don't know how to communicate about it, it becomes turned inward, because the confusion and the frustration is understood that they are the source of, but they don't understand why they're the source of. So it becomes a blame thing. Oh my God, there must be something wrong with me if I'm feeling this way. Not what do I have to attend to and in my world. It's a challenge with self. But I think as we get older, we don't think of it in the same terms. But I think that what happens when that ball of yarn happens is we go to the same place. Something's wrong with me that I'm here. And I absolutely went there. I was questioning everything about my life as a 56-year-old adult, not a 4-year-old child. But the feeling probably isn't a whole lot different. The despair and the desperation of like, how could I be here? What did I do to deserve this? What did I do to create this here, like right now? And it isn't anything earth shattering. It isn't anything, it isn't some monumental thing. It's just perspective. It's just, oh, I've created a ball of yarn. Let's deal with the ball of yarn.
Yeah. Well, as you say that, again, I'm reflecting on how you described you were brewing in this for a week and you're getting more and more stuck and tangled. I think what happens is the tangle of yarn congeals over time. It becomes hard and becomes a thing. So if you hadn't worked through that and kept a week or a month or a year, which people do, it's sometimes called ruminating or
spinning.
Yeah, spinning. Then all those threads, the differences become harder to discern as it congeals. It's like becoming, instead of a ball of yarn, a ball of like a rock or a ball of steel. And then we carry it as though it's one thing. Yeah. And it's much harder then to distinguish the threads and see them. And sometimes it needs to be shattered. Mm-hmm. And that happens with things like divorce, heart attacks, pandemics, things like that. So that's another path. So it's either the little pings can do it, or sometimes when the threads get congealed and hardened, then it takes something big, boom. And the work you do with people and helping them distinguish, recognize their energy, I think is so powerful in helping to prevent that and helping people be aware, okay, that's this energy stream, this is a different one, and to have that skill and discernment.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love, again, your analogy was beautiful in the way you described the hardening of the energy. The trick with it is understanding that it doesn't matter whether it's new energy or old energy, it has to be unraveled at some point. Whether you have to blow it up to get there, or whether you can soften it because it's starting to get hard. And the softening part is where you just start probing into. But again, if you've allowed it to get to a place where it's starting to harden, chances are good you're not terribly emotionally available. So that's the place you want to begin to focus, because what's hardening is your willingness. What's hardening is your ability, not your ability, your willingness to focus in the place that this exists instead of focusing somewhere else. And so what having someone outside of you can help to do is, even though you're still protective, or you're still, it's getting harder because you're emotionally not available to it, someone who can just listen and feed back your words to you makes all the difference in the world, because what we don't realize is that the internal dialogue is vastly different than what happens when you bring it outside and look at it objectively in multiple dimension. It's a whole different animal. This dialogue will never serve you, ever, 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 ever. Did I say that enough times? This dialogue will never serve you in that process. This has to be coming from here for that to be effective. When I say here, I mean in the heart space. And how that happens is feeling into the experience. So even though this is getting harder and difficult, the first piece is to lose the resistance. The losing of the resistance is the ability to talk about it. That's the first step in losing resistance, is to be able to say, okay, I need to get a new perspective of this thing that I've created. And it's full of all kinds of different things. But once you start to pull them apart, those are manageable. All of the things that you pull out of that thread, or all of that yarn, are all manageable. They just require a different focus and a different energy, because they're not the same energy or problem. So there you go. We got to take a quick break. All as right. I'm babbling. When we come back, Moshe is going to get to visit with you for a minute, talk about his book and whatever else he wants to talk about. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready to be ready? To be ready? Good. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will return right after this when I find my buttons. Here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Just real quick, if you like the show, please, if you're on YouTube, hit the bell. If you're on Facebook, like and subscribe. Help us get the message out. Help us spread the word of all the great things we got going on here, the amazing people that I get to talk to, the adventures we get to have, and also my book, I keep calling my book Adventures in Truth. Fear is a Choice. Join us on any of those platforms, but make sure to like and share us and send it out to the world. We're going to bring Moshe back in here, and this is what I like to call the guest host segment. This is where they get to talk about themselves as much as they want, as long as well, reasonably, but but it's still good. So, Moshe, take it away, buddy.
I will. Thank you. And I just want to say twice now in this show, you referred to your book as Adventures in Truth. I think you're referring to your next book. Just saying. And this is the book I wrote, The Amare Wave, Uplifting Business by Putting Love to Work. And I wrote this because there's a lot of pain and suffering that shows up in business and other parts of life. And a lot of it has to do with what we're talking about in the show is tangled energy streams, where we forget our purpose and we get caught up in, it's all about money. We got to hunt down customers and so on. And all that fighting energy takes on different lives and comes together and conflicts with sometimes our values of why we're doing this. We want to make a difference in life and we want to make money. So balancing those sometimes seemingly conflicting goals, which aren't really in conflict, can be difficult. And in today's consciousness in business, the whole idea of just coming from love is not very common. But my work is what I stand for is to promote that idea till it becomes the new way of doing business, the new normal in business. And part of that is awareness and that emotional availability that you referred to. So we're honest and vulnerable and authentic and willing to be wrong and willing to take a look at ourselves and to receive. In the conversation that Jim and I had that we referred to a lot in this show, he was receptive. And if you have that level of openness or willing to go there, that can make all the difference. And my work, like Jim's work, is to help people do just that. The end.
The end. That was really good. Guys, www.theamarewave.com is where you can find more information about Moshe and his book. As a business consultant, if you're looking for someone who can help take your business back to that love space, but also rocket it to the next level, ResearchWorks is his company, www.researchworks.com. Make sure you look him up, and guarantee he'll make a huge change in your experience with bringing love back into the work environment, which is huge and powerful. All right. Welcome back again. So we're talking about these balls of yarn. Did you want to say something, Moshe? I'm sorry. I kept talking and it looked like you were going to jump in. No. Okay. We're talking about unraveling these balls of energy, balls of yarn of our energy. I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean. How we clump all this stuff together. So I guess, have we talked about how we differentiate the streams? Have we really talked about that much, or is that? I'm thinking back.
We talked more about how they get confused.
How they get confused. So when you're in that moment, when you've got that tangled ball, and again, from Moshe's example, depending on where you're at in that, if it's still kind of fresh, if it's still kind of pliable, as it were, there's a little different approach than as it gets harder and as your emotional availability to it becomes more challenged. Understand that the hardening is probably more a safety mechanism, because when these things all clump, as I was experiencing last week, and you're standing on this precipice of like, what am I doing with my life, or what is going on in my world? It all feels very, dramatic and intense, but the feeling, the intensity of the feeling seems really real. And you feel like you're really at this point, and the point is just the pressure of all the opposing energies trying to come apart, you're holding these energies together by your thought process. They're not holding together of their own volition. They don't even belong together because they don't resonate, which is why they're a tangled ball of yarn. It's all of these energies that have no relationship or very little relationship attempting to be driven together to come up with a cohesive story. It doesn't work. So the differentiation process, part of the getting to talk to someone about it is, in my own space, I can kind of see what the different issues are, but I'm so emotionally clouded because they've clumped that it's harder for me to reach those different perspectives as effectively, even with meditation sometimes, because of the nature of the energies that are clumping together and that I'm clumping together. So having that person who can help you pull apart, the ping the ping we talked about earlier. For me, the ping is the thread. It's there it is. It's like ping, you're sitting there and you're talking and here's the clump and something gets said and all of a sudden it hits and it goes ping and there's a thread. There's now a point that I can go to and say, let's focus here first. And then we begin to pull this thread and that thread begins to show, oh, this is all about me feeling insecure about money. Okay, I know that story. That's not a new story. I can have that story I'll deal with. Okay, is it something I have to approach this second? No, because there's nothing I can really do about it in this second, which is why I clumped it in here to begin with. Rather than being patient with it and saying, this is something that's coming and I'm attending to it, but there's nothing that I can attend to right this moment. So we're going to let this gray strand sit over here. Conversation continues. You've already lightened up this ball a little. You've pulled a whole thread. Now things are going to start to loosen up a little. And if you stay in your own stream of consciousness in the conversation, you'll start to give very clear clues to the listener. And you'll begin to hear them as well because you've taken one strand, you've already released the emotional stress in some of the situations. So now you're beginning to relax energetically and seeing that, oh, this is my money story. Oh, I'm not going to die over this. Okay, I can sit over here. Now I'm going to go to the next one. What's the next one? There you are talking. Here it comes. Ping. It's related to the money thing, but it's a little different because it's about what I'm doing in the world. How am I being of service? Am I being of service enough? And then you realize, here I am with this money and purpose thing again. I'm getting them confused. I don't need to confuse them. So here's two strands. Now you've relieved a whole lot of pressure, and there are two things that you already know about. There are two things that are already part of your consciousness. You may not understand them yet because why are they up this way? But they're not unfamiliar stories. Does that make sense with everybody so far? Are we following that? Any questions, comments? I know I'm going on a lot here. Anything you want to say about any of that, Moshe? He's like,
I'm letting it settle before I answer. And I'm thinking, I'm reflecting, this is what you do so well in your work, is help people see threads, that you see them and help others see them. So at a higher level, there's also that ability to gain altitude and kind of separate from being in the ball of yarn to being an observer, so you can see the threads.
I was working with my client yesterday, and we hadn't seen each other in a week, and we hadn't talked in a week. And so it was catch up. It was, let's see how the week's been, what's been going on, how are you feeling, what's changing, what's shifting. And not 3 sentences in, he's sharing some of his experience. And again, as you're being the receiver, know that your energy system is already fine-tuned. Know that your energy system is available to you as soon as you put the energy there or the focus there. So as words wash over you, as somebody talks and the words wash over you, there is a feeling to those words. But within the context of the feeling of those words are the words themselves, which are the energy that they are creating through language. Do you understand? They're taking what is non-physical, translating it through their perspective and giving you words that are energy bundles. They're little energy bundles that are saying what they think they mean. Right? Because they're trying to translate this energy they don't understand or this energy they think they might understand, but they're translating it from that internal perspective that will never give you exactly what you want per se when you're thinking. So he says these sentences and as he's talking, this word, bing, this word, bing. And I've gotten used to now when that happens going, okay, I need to stop for a second. Let's talk about this word and let's talk about that word. And now I can actually take those words and flesh out the story that's behind the word because it's all energy. And so it comes up and you go, oh, that's an interesting, why did you choose that word? Tell me what that word means to you. And suddenly we're going into a deeper personal place. Now we're going into that emotional place where things are created in us. And so now they're given permission. Here's the energy packet. I go, oh, nice energy packet. Poof, let's look at this energy packet. And then they go, oh, I didn't think about it from that perspective. Bingo. That's all that's required. The only reason the energy packet isn't dissected is because you're not looking at it from a perspective that allows it to go like this. That's why we want to have that other person reflecting, because then they can say, hey, you may have no experience, but as you're listening, somebody says, I took the dog out for a walk and it was really awful. And you heard really, and you go, your mind goes, it's a stupid word. Why would they focus on that word? And your mind's going to tell you it's all nonsense. Unless you stay there and go, I really felt that. Why was the emphasis so powerful on that? And so then you ask a question, just an honest, oh, hey, I noticed the energy got a little funky there. Was there something around that was uncomfortable for you? Oh, well, then the story comes out. I was doing A, B, C, D, and I was in my room and I was doing this, and then the dog came, and then this happened, and the phone rang, and then it was raining, and the dog needed to pee, and I didn't want to go outside, and I was caught up in whatever story I was caught. I was fighting with somebody at work, whatever. It gets that tangled and that ridiculous. But again, the idea here is you're not dealing in the drama. You're feeling the energy. The drama is just what we do to ourselves in the confusion.
Yes. I'd like to introduce one word, which I think is really important, which is wonder. So thinking back to the conversation you and I had that we've been discussing in the show, you were in it, caught up in it, stuck in it for a week. And then somehow you moved, your state changed to one of wonder, like, I wonder why I'm feeling this way. What the hell is this? And when people are so caught up in it, it's like being the what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. And so immersed in it, it's virtually impossible to disentangle things. So I think it requires, or it's aided by the ability to step out enough, just enough to wonder. I wonder what this is about. I wonder why I feel so miserable. I wonder why I'm so confused.
Yes.
And in that state of wonder, the pings can happen. In that state of, you're so caught up in it, I don't know, it's much harder for the pings to get through.
Yeah, absolutely perfect, because the wonder creates the space. We were talking about earlier where it's here. Well, I wonder why I'm feeling this way. And it begins to loosen just enough, just a little bit. That's all that's required for something to make through. Now, I'm not, and also understand, guys, I'm not saying that you can't reach discovery in your own process. I'm not saying you can't be in meditation and come to some profound clarity about what you're dealing with. But when you are at the point when you're tangled into a ball, it's much more difficult to dissect your own ball, because there's too much internal conflicted energy coming at you while the external energy is coming at you. So it's not to say it's not possible. It's just that in the context of dealing with the energy ball, it's always easiest and best to find someone who can help reflect back to you. You can get there. And it's important to learn to get there, because there are lots of those along the way that you can catch early. You can catch, once you get used to this and understand that you're pulling these threads, then the conversation can become, I say I'm getting ready to tangle a couple things I don't need to tangle. Let's deal with one of them or deal with the other one so that I'm not tangling them up. And if I can't deal with either of them, let me still be clear that this one has an energy flow and this one has an energy flow, and I'm going to attend to them the best way that I can in any given situation. So dump the clump, people. Dump the clump.
There you go.
And I know it's not as necessarily as easy as it sounds, especially because, we're these fabulous human beings that have all of these incredible things happening around us. But if we come at it from the perspective of not wanting to be mired in that feeling or being stuck in that way, then dump the clump is something that that you can have fun with, because one, it makes it fun. I'm going to dump this clump of energy, but I'm going to, as Moshe was saying, oh my goodness, the word left me.
Wonder.
Because initially when you said it, I was confused by the choice of word, and then I went, oh yeah, that's the best place to go. I wonder why this is here. Get curious, get open in your energy so that you can begin to change change that clump of energy. So looks like we have blown through another hour here, Moshe. How about a minute on your end to bring us home, and then I'll finish up. Anything you want to share, offer?
Yeah, we've over the months, we've talked about a lot of different issues on the show, and had a lot of different adventures in truth. I think this is a particularly important one because we all experience this clumping of energy, and we often don't have words for it, and let alone ways to deal with it and disentangle. So the fact that you're featuring this topic on the show, I think, is really important. And for listeners, it provides a language and words and the ability to say, oh, that's what's going on, to label it, and then it becomes easier to deal with. So I appreciate your making space for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Really valuable for people listening and viewing who are willing to wonder about their own experience.
Yes. Well said. And I will tell you, as a way to bring this full circle, one of the key things that I realized out of our conversation, once I was able to pull these separate things apart, was that the prevailing issue that caused the initial maelstrom, as it were, was me feeling that I was giving up, or that I was going on the treadmill, that we've talked about, that I was letting myself be led on the treadmill, and I didn't want to be there, and I didn't like how it felt, and I wasn't liking how it was feeling. And suddenly I was like, why am I going here? I've never gone here in this path so far. Why am I here now? And that became a source of concern and frustration that then all the other stuff wrapped itself around. And what I realized is I don't have to do that. And what I realized was that I was maybe being a little unconscious for myself about how I was showing up on the show, because I think I have to get guests, and I have to do this way, and I have to do this show this way. And I went, no, I don't. I don't have to do it anyway, other than the way that feels best for me. And if there is an opportunity that presents itself that requires me to make adjustments, I can assess that at the time of that opportunity. But in the meantime, this is a vehicle for me to express as cleanly and as openly and as transparently as possible those things in consciousness that keep us from moving out of a fear-based experience into an opportunity-based experience. That's my work. That's what I do. That's who I am. And anytime that I choose to deviate from that is not going to feel good, because it's not who I am. It may be who somebody else is, but it's not who I am. And for that, I am grateful to you for the time that you took to reflect to me, because this topic is a direct result of that conversation, and this topic is necessary. And that's what I'm here for. I don't need to be on the dog and pony show. I don't need to be on the let's talk about everybody's pretty things, and there's nothing wrong with any of that, but that's not my lane. So it was realizing I needed to stay clean in my own lane. And as soon as I got that, all of the resistance abated, and I could address all of the other stuff easily and say, okay, that's why this is stressing me out, because it's all related to the core of me. And if I'm going this direction, do I want to make money this way? Do I want to use this to make money that way? How am I doing this? And am I still staying in integrity with who I am in doing it? And I feel like I shifted back perspective to that place once again. So thank you for that. Thank you for this amazing conversation. Thank you all out there for being there. Sorry we ran a little long today. www.adventuresintruth.com. Buy my book. Hit me up if you're looking to work with somebody. I know that's an interesting way to put it, but I do consultations. They're free. If you have an interest, if you're looking to find out more about the science of transformation, you can do that. Email me, contact me via the website. theamarewave.com. Check out Moshe's book and support his work. Amazing stuff going on out there. Thank you, everybody. Have an incredible day. Thank you for being here. And we're out. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to connect with you. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. To learn more about Jim's book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, or to book a session with Jim, you can email us at adventuresintruth@gmail.com, or you can join us on the web at www.adventuresintruth.com. Tune in next time for another great Adventures in Truth podcast.